Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Okay, so good evening, guys, and welcome to TeenLead Foundation. So we are starting a new series on Scratch programming. My name is Steven Efriye, and I'm your code instructor. I'm also the director for coding and programming at TeenLead Foundation. And I'm privileged to be taking you through Scratch programming. So if you are joining us on YouTube, I would encourage you that you share the video and then give the opportunity for other people to also watch and then come and then learn. So this series is meant for everyone. Irrespective of age, even kids as low as 6 years can take advantage of this opportunity to learn programming, because it's going to be very fun and it's going to be very entertaining. So if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, then I would encourage that you join us and then let's get coding. So like I said, I am the coding director for TeenLead Foundation. So TeenLead Foundation, what we do is to encourage young people into STEM career related. We believe that STEM is very important, and it's important we get as many children or as many kids to venture into STEM related fields or disciplines. And one aspect that we believe it's going to be very useful, or is going to be very important for our young ones, especially into their areas of interest, is coding. Because everyone is coding now, and there are lots of things that we can do in our various fields if we have coding experience. And the very reason why we are bringing to you this very important program, coding and programming, and we are doing this year with Scratch programming. So what is Scratch programming? So basically, Scratch programming allows Scratch programming is a visual builder. Okay, it's a visual builder application that enables us to build programs, enable us to build games, enable us to build applications, enable us to, build all sorts of fun, animation, art, and then others by using a visual builder. So unlike the traditional programming that we know of, okay, where we write codes directly to be able to build our apps, to be able to build our games, to be able to build our programs, Scratch, it's different, okay? Because you get to interact, you get to build everything using, a visual builder. And that's the reason why Scratch is very easy, and yet Scratch is very powerful, okay? Because it retains all the power that you get when you write your code, or when you code. It retains all the power. Even though you are doing everything visually, you still get the same benefits that you would have when you use traditional programming application. Now, Scratch is built and maintained by MIT. Okay, so that means that Scratch it's open source, so you don't have to, pay money or anything to be able to learn the language. Okay, so you can just use it, and it's free of charge. So as I've already said, Scratch actually is the world's largest coding community for children. Scratch has been developed with the aim of targeting children, targeting young ones. Okay, so the whole idea behind Scratch was to target kids between the age of 8 and then 16 years. Okay, to be able to build stories, to be able to build games, to be able to build animation without having to learn how to write code directly. Now, mind you, even though you would not be writing codes traditionally, everything that you'll be doing on the screen, the drag and drop, and then all that, will be creating your code behind the scenes. So it's very good for children who eventually want to launch or go into, a coding career related. Okay, so they get to appreciate the end from the beginning. So they get to appreciate what they can do or what they'll be able to build if they know coding. And that is what Scratch seeks to do. And like I said, it's developed and then maintained by the MIT Media Lab. So now, who uses Scratch? Okay, so as I have already said, okay, Scratch is used by children between the age of 8 and then 16. But because of its fun, because of what you can do, and because of its power, people of all ages have adopted the Scratch programming language. Now, Scratch is used has been used in over 200 countries, and then also been used in over 70 plus languages. And so it's one of the widely used programming languages purposely that also targets children of all ages. So if you are interested in building games, if you're interested in building animation, if you're interested in building fun-filled activities, then Scratch is, a language of choice for you. So what is Scratch used for? Scratch, I've already talked about that. Scratch can be used to build games. Okay, so there are so many games out there that you can build with Scratch. The primary purpose of Scratch was to be able to build games. Okay, so you just have to have all your logics together, have your games setting, you plan and then everything. Now, when we start experimenting with the programming language, you realize that it provides us everything. It provides us with everything. Okay, so characters, background, programming logics, techniques, and then everything. Okay, to be able to put our games or whatever we are developing together. Okay, so we Scratch just we just have to focus on building our game, and then Scratch, do all the hard work for us. So it can be used to build games, it can be used to build art, it can be used to build animation, it can be used to build music, and then so on. Okay, so now how do you get started with Scratch? As I've already mentioned, Scratch is free. It's purely open source, and then the code is maintained on GitHub. So if you do not know GitHub is the world's largest code sharing community. And so everybody can take advantage and then use Scratch. Now you can either use Scratch by using the web application. So you go to the website and then you can start creating your Scratch projects, or you can also download the software from the resource section. I will show you that you can download it from the resource section, and then you can start using Scratch offline without the need of internet connection. It is very essential that users have an account, okay? And having an account enables you to be able to share your projects with the online community, be able to get ideas, be able to get experts advice, and then so on. So it's very important that you join the online community. You only have to visit their website, and then you register an account with them, and then you can start using the language. So when you visit their website, you have the option to create your project directly. Okay, so you have a button to click to create your project directly. I've talked about that. And then if you also want to download the offline version, you go to their website, the resource section, then you can download the site. Okay, so today's lesson, I know you guys are eager to start creating games, to start creating animation, to start building all sort of things with Scratch. Okay, but just like every language, to get things started first, I would need to take you guys through the interface of the Scratch application, and that is what we are going to do for today. So I'm going to show you everything that you need to know before you start using Scratch. And it's very important that, you know, we get to understand Scratch. We get to understand, you know, where to get what and how to do what, and then so on. And so that is what we are going to do. So we are just going to jump straight away into Scratch. Okay, so I will switch over to my browser and we are going to start coding with Scratch. Okay, so great. So we are at the Scratch. Okay, so we are at the Scratch website. Okay. So we are here. Just go to scratch.mit.edu. So I told you that Scratch is an MIT project and it's open source. So you can donate if you want to support the project. I'll leave that to you guys. What we are going to do is to start, building our code, you know, right away. So to start using Scratch, to start coding, I'll simply click on Start Creating. Okay, so I told you that you can use the app directly in the browser. Optionally, if you want to use this offline, which I would also recommend, especially if you are in a place where you have challenges with the internet, or even if you have challenges with rendering the graphics in your browser, which I have experienced before, then you can scroll down here to resources, okay, and then you can click on the download button, and then you'll be able to download the program. Okay, so you have options to download and install for Windows, for Mac, even on Android, and then you can also use it on Chrome. Okay, so you have this option. So that shows you that Scratch is for everybody, it's for every computer, and then so on. Okay, so if you have done that, let's go ahead. So I'm going to use directly within the browser. I also have the app installed on my computer, but I'll use it straight on my browser. So I'll click on Start Creating. And there we go. So that is Scratch for you. So notice how we have this beautiful interface, well-arranged interface. You have this very short tutorial, which you can play and then look at it, but I am not going to do that. So I'm going to close this tutorial. Okay, so now Scratch interface is, it's just, it has three interfaces. Okay, so the interface is divided into three sections. Let me say that, three sections. So you have the part where, all the coding and the logics are done. Okay, so, you can write your codes, you can, design your characters, you can play with some sounds and then all that. Okay, so when I say write your code, like I said, we are not going to write codes manually here. Okay, we are not going to write codes manually here. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me be sure that I'm still live on YouTube. Okay. So just pardon me. Let me be sure I'm still live on YouTube. Okay. Okay, so I'm still live on YouTube. Good. So now that's the interface of Scratch. Okay. So you have the coding section, and then you also have the design section. Okay. So now this is the section where all your work is done. Okay, so if you are writing your code directly, you say that is your editor. Okay, so that is where you can play with motions, you can play with loops, you can play with sound, you can play with events, and then all that. Okay, so you can visually design everything here in this editor, or I would say design section. So you also have your output section here. So this is where you're able to see the effect of what you are doing. Okay. So for those of you who program already, for every programming language, once you write your code, you should be able to run it. and then maybe visualize your app in your browser, visualize your app, somewhere else, and then all that. So this is the output. And then maybe the fourth one, which I have to also talk about, it's, the sprite section, okay, the sprite and then the stage section. So in Scratch, you have two main, I would say you have two main performance, okay, whether it's a game or whatever that you are doing. Okay, so you have your sprite, which is your character, okay, or your characters. You can have as many of them. And then you also have your stage or your backdrop, okay. So notice that I have this white section over here. That is not what I want to do most of the time. Most of the time, I want to be able to, show a background, okay. Like if you're in a movie, you can have a background and then all that. So I can use this to do that. So let's start exploring something. So notice I already have a sprite or a character here, okay. So let's say I delete this character and then I want to add a new character. How do I go about it? So notice this, choose a sprite. So I can go to add. And then when I go to add, I have the options to see so many so many characters. So I can select from animals, people, fantasy, dance, music, sports, food, fashion, and then so on. Depending on the game you are creating, depending on the anime, depending on the setting that you want, you can decide to choose any of these characters. But I am going to stick to the default character, which is the cat. But you can scroll, so here you can see all of them, but you can narrow down to specific ones like animals, people, and then so on. So I'm going to stick to the default character once again, which is the cat. So I can select that. Now, apart from that, you can also upload your own sprite, which I'm not going to do that now. Then I can also pick a background so that I don't have this white background. Just want it to look, more realistic. So I'll choose a backdrop. Okay. So I'll just go to choose a backdrop. And then here again, I also have options to choose from several backdrops, sports, space, and then so on. Okay, so once again, this all depends on the character that you are playing with. Since I'm working with cats, I know cats like to play in the bedroom. So I'll choose this middle bedroom 2. And notice that I already now have a character and then I have a background. So what I'm going to do is that over here, I can click and then bring my character or my sprite to this ground, to this place, so that our cat now is playing in the bedroom. And there are so many things that you can do over here. But I think this is the most important thing that you need to know about your settings, your character, your background, and then all that. Let's come back to our code section. So our code section. So code, costumes, and then sounds, okay. So let's come here to our code section. So before I'll do the code section, I want to treat that last. So maybe I'll just look at costume. Okay, so this is the default character that you have. Okay, but you can, customize the character. Okay, so have some fill, change it. If you don't want a yellow, an orange cat, you can change the color and then all that. So you can do all that here. But we'll do that when we start building, working with projects. And then you can also have sound. Okay, so if you want your character to talk or to play or play a specific sound, then you can have all that. So here we have a default sound, meow. So clicking on that, it starts speaking. Now this is because I added a cat, okay, and we know that cat likes to meow, so that is why you have this cat over here. And you can play with the sound, but I won't dwell so much on that. What is most important to me is the code section. Okay, so now if you are a developer, chances are that you write codes a lot. Okay, so of course you write code. And if you are building a game or whatever that you are doing, if you are creating a game, there are so many things that your game can do. Okay, so your game, your character in your game may be making movements, maybe making some sound, maybe creating some looks. Sometimes you want your character to act when a certain condition is met, or you want your character to maybe jump when the app key on your computer is pressed. You want your character to stop when your maybe spacebar is pressed. Okay, so now you have to achieve this by writing code, and that is what Scratch has done for it. It has simplified everything. Okay, in our code section. So instead of we to write, our focus more on having codes, having clean codes, and then all that making our codes readable, all that stress. Scratch simplifies everything for us. So we don't have to focus on writing codes. Rather, we focus on building our projects while Scratch does all the hard work for us. So I'll quickly walk you through the various things that you can do with your code section. So the first is that I can make my character, perform some motion. Okay, so the motion section under the code allows your character to do things like move, turn, slide, and then so on. So I'll pick this move 10 steps. So all that I need to do, if I want to make my character, let's say, move. Okay, so there's this move here, and I can just click and then drag. So easy. And that is what Scratch it's all about. Drag and then drop. So my character moves 10 steps. Okay, so the way I want this to, the way I'm able to see it is just by clicking on this move. Okay, and then my character is moving. Okay, so notice that my character is moving. So easy. But let's just say I want it to move faster, so I can increase it to, let's say, 100 steps, and then let's see what happens. Okay, so it's moving, but this time it's moving very fast. Good. I can also let my character turn, so this 10, 15 degrees. Okay, so let's say my character is on the bed and then I want to turn 15 degrees. Okay, so you see it's turning. Okay, it's turning 15 degrees, and then I can let my cat enjoy its turn on the bed. Okay, and then so on. And there are so many others. So it's just making a right turn. I can make it do a left turn by using the turn left. Okay, and go random position and then all that. Okay, so now if I click my character, I drag my character back. Now notice what happened. Just watch the code blocks. Okay, so you can see that this code go to X and Y changes. Okay, so whenever I drag it, it changes. It keeps changing. Okay, to match the position. So let's say I want to make it move to a certain position. So let's say I want it to move to where the mirror is. So I can just drag it, okay, so that it can look at its face. Now notice what happens. So I have the go to changes to 172x and then y9. So x here is for horizontal movement and then y is for vertical movement, as we know most of the time. Okay, so now if this is where I want you to move, okay, so now I can drag my code block here and then I will reset my character, bring my character over here. Okay, notice that this doesn't change, okay, because this is the location I have registered. So now when I click this, it goes straight to in front of the mirror. And that is what we want to achieve. And so you can keep trying a lot of things. And so we bring all these ideas together when we are creating a game, okay? So now I would remove my blocks. Okay, I'll remove my blocks. And then I'll bring my character back. So we also have looks, okay? So looks, I can let my character say hello. So looks are basically gestures and then so on. So by clicking, it says hello. Okay, it says hello. If I want to implement sound, then we can also do that. So I'll delete this. I can also make my code to think, okay, so my cat is anxious and it's thinking and then all that. And there are lots of things I can keep on doing with the look section. What about sound? Okay, so I told you about sound. So I can play a sound, okay, meow, okay, and then all that, okay. And I can also play until something is done and then all that, okay. So we'll look at all that. Then we have events, okay. So all along we've been, performing action when we click on the code in question. So let's say I want the cat to say meow or to cry meow when I click, okay, a start button. So you normally will use this when, let's say, you are creating a game. So before you start playing the game, you need to click a start button so that you reset everything to its default position and then all that. So let's say I want the cat to move when I click on the start button and then maybe say meow later on. So I'll go to motion and then I'll click move steps, okay. So it will be making steps of 20 instead of 10, 20. Okay, and then all that. Okay, so okay, so yeah, so we are going to do that. So I'll click on this button and then notice that my cat's moving. Okay, so now I want my cat to be moving, okay, and then saying meow at the same time. So I'll go to sound and then I'll say start sound meow. Okay, so the cat is going to make 10 steps and then cry. So notice that. Very, very, very interesting. Great. So I'm sure we're enjoying Scratch now, and then there's more that we are going to do. Okay, so this is that with the sound. You can also record your own sound. Okay, let's just say I want to record my own sound. So instead of saying meow, maybe I'll just say, maybe record, okay. And then I'll say, hello, I am a cat, and then I am hungry, so I want some food. So meow. Okay, so I'll just stop my recording. I can play. Hello, I am a cat, and then I am hungry, so I want some food. So meow. Okay, so I'll save my recording. Okay, so now I have two recordings, meow and then my recording one. Okay, so I'll go back to my code, and this time around, I'll just make it move like 100, just a one movement, and then it will just talk. Or yeah. So instead of meow, I'm just going to change it to recording one. So let's see what happens. Hello, I am a cat, and then I am hungry, so I want some food. Great. Hello, I am a cat, and then I am hungry, so I want some food. Great. So I'm using a microphone here, and then I'm sure the sound should be clear enough for you guys. What about events? Now, events are very important in programming, okay? With events, you are able to perform an action. Your character is able to perform an action when a certain, in most cases, a button or something is pressed. Okay, so let's switch to events. And then, yeah, so we're looking at events. Okay, so instead of using the click, I could have used maybe a different button. Like, I'll just remove maybe. Hello, I am a cat, and then okay, so I'll just separate this. And then I can bring maybe when a space bar is clicked. Okay, or let me say when the up arrow is clicked. So I'm going to click on my up arrow on my keyboard. Okay, so I'll just click on my up arrow. Right. Okay, so hello, I am a cat, and then I am hungry, so I want some food. And that is all what click events are all about. Okay. So when you play a game, when your character is flying, okay, so you click a button and then all this is achieved. Okay. Okay, so let's continue and then let's move to the control section. Okay, so all along, I perform some action, but in programming, sometimes you want to, keep repeating a procedure or have this repeated or forever loop. Okay, so it's used in a lot of applications. Okay, guys, just a minute. Okay, so you want to keep repeating a process. I want to the cat to keep saying meow, like instead of once. Okay, so I'm going to change the recording to so I'll switch my sound to meow. Okay, and then I'll change the steps to 10, and then I'm going to bring everything into I want to bring everything into this forever loop. Okay, so this will be performed, and then I'll do this good, and then I'll bring this up arrow. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Okay, so I'll click on the up arrow. Oh, yes, so this is something you should never do, okay, unless you know what you are doing. Okay, so this is a forever loop, and this will continue to keep going, okay, unless you introduce a constraint to stop it. And in most cases, when you use this in a program, it can even freeze your computer and then all that. Okay, so apart from that, you can use if. Okay, so perform a condition when certain things are done, where wait, loop, wait until, repeat, and then so on. Okay, and then for sensing, okay, now sensing is also something that it's kind of cool. Okay, so let's just say you can be using an external device. Okay, you can be using an external device, and then you connect it to your program. Okay, so let's say you are using a joystick or something. Okay, so you can also include sensing also into your program, and we'll look at that maybe in a more advanced tutorial. Okay, so operators. Now, operators are very important in programming. If you come from a pure programming background, okay, if you do Python, C++, and then all that, okay, so there are times where you need to perform some mathematics, okay, you need to search whether something exists, maybe a letter exists in a word, and then so on. Okay, so we can use operators. So I can use a plus operator, okay, and then I can add 3 and then 3. So notice that I have 6. Okay, so now this is an operator at its basic level. Okay, so I can perform multiplication and then all that. I can also check whether a certain number is greater. So let's say I have 2 players of a game. I can check whether which score is greater than the other, and then that person would win the game. You can do all that. Now let's look at one scenario where operators is very, is widely used in Scratch. It's recording scores. Okay, so we'll look at that. Okay, so let's move to variables, and then we'll see that in action. Yes, so I need to be able to track my score. Let's just say anytime my cat makes a movement, it scores, it gets a score of, let's say, 5 or 10, and then I want to record this and then keep track of it. So to do that, I'll remove my code from my forever loop, and then I don't need it anymore. So I'll bring it under that. And what basically that means is that when I click on the up arrow, it makes a movement and then it cries. So this time when it does that, I want it to score. Okay, so I want to see how far the cat can walk or can move to. So to do that, I can have a variable and I can create a variable. Now, variables are basically date at its basic definition, variable stores data. Okay, so variable stores data. So you can store a variable, a number, let's say 5, with a variable x. We are not going to go into details of variables. Okay, variables in actual computer terms or in actual computer science terms, variables reference or they are pointers to data on memory. So if our cat scores 5, 5 is recorded on our computer and then variables reference them. I'll create a variable and call it score. I'll call it score and then I'll use it for this right only. So now as soon as I create this variable score, it's added to the top corner, left corner section of on our program. So what it means is that all the scores will be recorded or all the scores will be registered there. I want my card to make movement, and then when it makes movement, I want the card to score a point. And now to do that, what I'm going to do is that I am going to have a set, okay? So I'm going to have a set variable, and then I'm going to have a change variable. And what it means is that when we start, I want my variable to be 0, so the score will be 0. Now, my variable here is going to be changed to score because we've created our own variable called score. And then it's going to change the variable also to score. It's going to score the variable by 10. I mean, it's going to change the score by 10. So whenever the cat makes a movement, it scores 10 points. And that is what I'm going to do for the score. Now I'm going to put this block right after the meow. Okay, so the cat has to move 10 steps, cry meow, and then it scores 10 points. And that is all that is going to do. So what I'm going to do is that I'll still leave it under the up arrow. Okay. Or to make it more meaningful, I'll just say the right arrow. Okay, so you need to the right arrow press, and then it's going to make a movement, it's going to score. So now, currently our score is 0. So let's get a card working and then see how our score is going to change. So I'll click on the right arrow on my computer. Okay, so I do that. My card moves, and then notice that the score. Okay, so now the score is not changing. Okay, so let's see if we can fix that. Okay, so let's see if we can fix that. So I think okay, so let's see. Score. Okay. So great. So now this is what I was talking about. This is where we have to use the operators, okay? Because the operators is going to increment the score. Okay, so I'll bring in an operator. Okay, so I'll go to operators and then, so let's just say this, good. So, okay, so now I think I get it now. So I think we may not need the operator now. Because what I'm going to do is that I'm sure you guys are following and you know the logic. So what I'm going to do is that instead of putting the score, so what basically it does is that it sets the score to 0 once the cat moves and say meow, and then change the score by 10. And then when the code starts again, it sets the score back to 0, which is not what we want. Okay, so what we want to do is that, let's say we would, so I'm going to separate this, okay, and then let's So instead of, so remove this set score, okay, remove this set score, and then rather just keep it at change score. Okay, it's going to change score by 10. Let's try it and see. Okay, so notice that it's working now. So it moves, it cries, and then the score is increased by 70. This is not an actual game we are building now, so we are not going to go into details of resetting the score and then all that, but this is something that you can do. Finally, blocks. So if you have some understanding in programming, just treat blocks as functions, okay? Treat blocks as functions. So functions in programming allows us to reuse our code. Okay, so I can write, a set of code, and then at some point I want to reuse it. So let's say after some point, maybe when the cat moves out to a different scene, I still want to reuse the code. Okay, so instead of writing all this again, then I can create a block. Okay, so I can create a block. So maybe cat block, I'll call this cat block. And then I'll just say, okay. So now once I have this block, what it means is that I can bring this entire code. Okay, so okay, so I can bring everything under this entire. Once I'm using a block, then maybe I don't need to do this. Okay, so instead of going ahead and then, instead of creating the same code anytime maybe I click an event. So if let's say now I have a right arrow, let's say I want to get another event. Okay, so that event is when you click the start, that's the green flag. So when I click the start, I want the card to perform. And then when I click the right arrow, I want the card to perform. So without blocks, without blocks, I'll have to have been doing this, okay, separately. So I have to have one of these here, and then I have another one here, so that the two both have it. But with blocks, I can just have it under one block, and then I'll just bring the block here, and then bring the block here. So clicking on this, okay, so using the right arrow, okay, performs, and then clicking on the green also performs. Okay, so we've been able to successfully use blocks and then functions. And that is basically all that you need to know about Scratch. So thank you for being part of this tutorial. Okay, so I'm sure some will watch this video later on. So I encourage you to share. You can share this with your kids, and let them start enjoying, using Scratch. And then I'm going to see you guys same time next week, hopefully. And then we'll start building our first project in Scratch.